on another painting. This is called an intro for this. It was an outro for that. Well, that was a fun little story. You know, I've just been listening to some of the Bible stories and wondering about how I would go about approaching them. A lot of times, you know, you don't really have to go through and pull something apart piece by piece to get the gist of things. Because remember, you know, these are stories that were passed down through generations. You know, so that, you know, that things were pretty much maintained. Except for the fact that, you know, for our last few generations, you know, for at least 2,000 years, we've been using somebody else's something written down. And any of the newer things that people do to try to make our Bible easier to read takes away certain elements that were hard to understand when you first read it in the King James versions. But if you take away those particular words and phrases and just the whole canvas, you know, how things go together, then you're doing the whole message of the Bible a disfavor. Okay? But if your focus is only on the surface of the Scripture and trying to convey that message, well, you know, then have a ball, you know. But to me, it's all shit paper once you start changing the word. And, you know, and it talks about that. It talked about changing the word, you know. It's not just changing the word. They may feel funny about changing words, but they can, you know, damn sure omit stuff, you know, and change a meaning of something with no trouble at all. I mean, shit, you know. So the stories that I've heard so far today that I could probably get off as another meditation story would be the well, this one I just finished. I'd go with that one because it's pretty fresh, and that's the story of Esther. And Esther is she's a feast day because there's a lot of feast on this, because she is noted for saving the Jewish people from being destroyed. And that's quite a feat for a female of antiquity. They usually didn't get anything, but there was a trick involved. And again, because it's a female, she, of course, was the trick. She was going, the way the story comes out, you know, it's, you have to think of it, the three. There's a king, and then there's his right-hand man, and then there's someone else. There's always this three. So we would say, like, Cain is the one that tills the soil, and Abel is the one that works with the sheep. So Cain is like the flesh person, in the person, but it's really like the second person inside the person. That's the king's person. All right, I know it sounds kind of strange, but you've been with this before. All right, and then there's always the side person. You know, this would be Mordecai in this instance. So what you've got here is the story that we just came out of that I talked about was there was the two people. It was Ishmael. Remember, that's the one that could go up, but you know, the one that got killed was the one that's always on the left hand side. He's the bad guy. Haman is on the left hand side of this, and Mordecai is on the right hand side. So Mordecai is the one that actually serves the king. All right, and that means, and the king has lost favor with this first queen, and he wants to get another one. All right. This is this divorce of a queen, but he's not really divorcing her. He's sending her off. He's just not had a good time with her. He says, send her off. I want a fresh one. I want a fresh queen. And, of course, he was introduced, like he wanted to show her off to all the men in the town. He had this great big shindig for all the men in the town. Remember, all the men in the town, it's always this idea of just your left brain. And she was going to be paraded around in front of them. And she says, I ain't going to have that. If he wants to see me, then he'll come to me. So she put this thing up. And so the whole story here is, if they follow this woman, no woman is ever going to do what their husband says ever again. That's if we're going to make some kind of example out of her. So really what they did is they just vanished her into Nether, right? But anyways, what was her name? Did I write her name down? Vashi. Vashi means that drinks the thread. Alright, so right off the bat, these kings and queens is an outside situation. Alright, the kings and queens is an outside world that's governing over this particular person that's going through all this trouble. And the whole idea is to get up to the top, or not to the top, but we want to get through things. We're having right now a fight between the doorman, which is the second guy in charge, which is Haman, and the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper happens to be our Mordecai. And the gatekeeper is the one that's, closest to the king. In a lot of ways, he's found out that someone was trying to kill him. And he found out that it was, what's his face, Hagar and his group. They were going to try to kill him. So they thwarted it off. The king got really happy about it, but Hagar, through some kind of craziness, still fingered Mordecai, but didn't really tell the king that we're going to kill him and all of his people now, and made him do some decree. All right. So you can see that there's going to be some killing going on. We want to just get rid of the bad guys. We want to save the good guys. All right. This is like picking between the good and the bad. All right. So when they finally come down to it, now this Esther gal is this beautiful woman. What's her name mean? Her name means star. It says Mordecai means contribution. No, it says contrition, bitter, bruising. Now, these ideas. This is one of them. When I run around, I try to find out what the names actually mean. And he is the gatekeeper, so and when it talks about bruising, whenever I've seen and heard this word bruising before, and they're going to later on, he's out to be killed, so he puts on sackcloth and ashes. And that's what it means about the bruising of the heel and the bruising of the head. It has to do with bowing down, and and there's about death, and they rent their clothes, and which is this idea of the skin. It's a lower conscious idea, of a discipline, which is actually meditation. And then all of a sudden, it's all quiet in the city, and the queen is listening. She goes, "I hear nothing. They're all whining and crying, but there's no moving or anything, And they say it's because they're going to put Mordecai to death. And they're also going to kill you too, So remember, these are all within one person. And, when it comes down to it, this is really a story about Mordecai. It's not a story about Esther, but Esther saves the day. Because it's really about finding a queen, the right queen for the king. And if she's just going to be this drunken woman who doesn't want to, that didn't serve the king when he asked her to, that's the idea. Is this, the female side has to submit when the king asks for it. And it's not a sexist thing. It's the idea that she's ready whenever he wants to come in. And he was refused, this woman. So he exiled her to go and find a better queen for him. And so he finds a young Israelite. He doesn't even tell him that she is an Israelite, which means doesn't mean that she's a Jewish person. It means that she's a Jew. She's one of those people that's within. She's connected to the Lord. All right. So, and because the other guy, Mordecai is also a Jewish guy. So these are servants of the Lord. So when it all comes down to it, she fasts. She fasts for 3 days. She tells everyone to fast for 3 days. You know, the number 3, when 3 comes in, you know there's about to be some kind of a divine intervention. You know, that's when 1 and 2 get together to create the 3. You know, that's when God and his subjects come together to create a force, and to see that they can't see what we can do to work through this, because this is the idea of going through this well, going through the problem, through whatever it is that is going on here. And right now is just to get through to a queen that will help. One that's not going to be sitting around doing nothing. All right, this is trading up. That's all it is. You know, it's like going from the man and wife stories when they're all trapped down on the low end of things. It's the king and the queen, but it's the outside. But it's really connecting her. It's connecting them internally with something more important. So the woman is chosen by touching the tip of the staff. And if no one touches the staff, if you didn't do it, you're going to go to death. You know, you'll be threatened with death. So they all had to touch the tip of it, and that's how he decided who was going to be his queen. So that's really kind of cool. So when it comes down to it, the whole idea was that Mordecai was going to hang. All right, but it wound up being that they trade places, and so the bad guy hangs instead. And hang in this world means to cut what's above and what's below. So that just makes me think about the story is about Hagar. It would be Hagar. It would be the story about the king. It would be anyone. It would be anybody of us is how it would show up. It would be whoever who goes in here. You're the king. You got this side that hasn't got a good queen, and you've turned into this bad guy, and you've been trying to be a good guy for a while, but you just ain't got the right thing. So you searched your kingdom, searched the whole kingdom, gathered all these worthy opponents or worthy people together, and you decided on one, you know, and it was the right one, and she saved the day. But this guy hangs instead. So you know that's the story of when Jesus is betrayed. Well, this is going to show another part of the story. But when he's betrayed, he tosses the silver that he's given. Remember, the silver has to do with that passageway in the middle of the moon. You know, that passage in between. So it was really, really cool that when he was done with that, he hung himself, because that's the order of it, because that's what it means to hang yourself. Remember, the outside of the Bible is written in such a way that if you followed it, it'll hurt. But if you could sense the what they call is the spirit of the text, you'll find that it's not. It's talking again about things in your mind, things about your personality. And this trip home, you know, when you finally make it, you know. So anyways, best to you, all right? You know, keep it short. I'll bring up another one. I'll talk about this other one too while I got the time, all right? See you.